Hi, Florian again, and welcome to another episode of the 180-Day Idea Machine Challenge. Tonight we're talking about sex, idea sex, and how that works. Basically, you take 10 ideas to one topic and mix them with 10 ideas from a different topic. Or you have two different people and they come up with 10 ideas to one topic. So you have 20 ideas together and you mix and match them. And then from basically the overlap of both ideas, something new emerges. And I will be doing a first try at that to mix two different topics. One is the books I had recently. I had a post about 16 books that I think are absolutely important to read and are great, basically great partners in my life, if you wish, or mentors. And then 10 quotes, 10 lines that I found amazing. And so I'll be producing 10 mergers basically. And these mergers are having the line as a book title and the book title as a subtext. So, for example, if you have the original quotation as let's say this is the next move, would be this is the next move is your line, and the power of now is the book. Then you could have mix them both and say this is your life because it is happening now, right? So see how I mix that. Took some elements from each title and put them together. So in the corresponding blog post to this video, I have the 10 quotes that I had, and I have the books that I also had, and then I'll mix them. So I'm just telling you about the mixes right now to make it easier. So, for example, number one, tough chances and leaps of faith. Play the game and win. A subtitle. The original combination was if an opportunity is too hard, that is the opportunity, and choose yourself. So I think choosing what you really want to do can be extremely difficult if you are kind of in a rut, right? Maybe you're in the middle of your career, like between 30 and 40, and you've done always the same thing again, and then you want to do a change. And by age of 35, you've sort of like started your career in the right direction, or the direction you thought would be great back 15 years before, and then maybe you realize this doesn't fulfill you anymore, and also you are having a career that doesn't really lend you any additional any good way out. So you're depending on one company. If they fire you, you're done. So you might as well just start choosing yourself, as James Altucher says in his book. Choose yourself, and it's of course the best if you do that with age of 20. If you don't really settle into a wrong career path that gives you regrets down the line, maybe. But also, who can predict the future 15 years in advance, right? So you might just go trust in a good career, and then you're there, and you realize this is not the right thing to do. So you want to change, and that is difficult if you're between 30 and 40. So that book would address that demographic. It would be good for everyone, but especially useful for people in between 30 and 40. And the 3 chapters of that book would be A, leaving it all behind, taking stock of what was. B, so many ways, which one leads to Rome, choosing the right idea. And C would be actively installing your future, executing your ideas every day. Because I believe you can't just choose one new topic, one point, and you're done. You have to choose yourself every day anew. You have to work on what you really want to do every day until you can make a living out of that, and until you can even retire on that and really only do what you really want to do in life. That would be book number 1. Book number 2, I would call The Power of Not Fucking Up. Your life happens every day. It's a subtitle. So two books I took together, or one book and one line. The book title was, the line title was from Aaron Clary, Just Don't Fuck Up. And then the book would be The Never Ending Story. So the synthesis, that book, the resulting book, is about utilizing what you have to live your life every day. In The Never Ending Story, the protagonist chooses a new part of a fantasy world that he gets sucked into, all from his imagination. So basically, on the one hand, you want to go through life with the thought of just don't fuck up, and on the other hand, you want to just really embrace the possibilities you have with your imagination. So that means actually that you're happy with where you are in material terms, but really think about what you can do with this stuff, or the material, the money, the very material riches that you have. What can you do in your position already every day? And as the protagonist in the never-ending story, you only need your imagination to get a good idea, and you don't need a lot of money to fulfill your dreams. You can do that already now, and then work on it, and then maybe come out that you can retire early or something like that, right? So basically, it would be a book about, it would be an everyday guide for practice minimalism, right? So the 3 chapters of that book would be: first chapter, 3 silent killers, spending on status, on deprecating items such as cars, and bad company. Yeah, you spend your time with people that are not really your friends, or are really not as enthusiastic about getting new ideas or putting others down and so on. You want to ditch that bad company. And then second chapter is put it in a box. If stuff is out of sight, you still remember it. What this means is basically, if you have so many items that you can't decide what to let go, just put them into a box and put them into the basement or attic or just out of sight. And then look, what will you still miss after 1 month? You may realize, oh man, I totally forgot what was in that box that I packed 6 months ago. And then you can really let it go because you realize it's not important for your life anymore. And the third chapter would be called One Step a Day. How you can walk the road of happiness every day. Because as I said in the book suggestion before, you have to invent yourself every day new. You have to choose your path every day new. And you have to be aware that this path can be a walk of practice happiness, right? You can be very happy on the path that you choose. There's no point, what with all the social media and stuff, you know, it can be scary on the one hand because you're on your own more than you were in the past. But on the other hand, you can really choose a path that makes you happy. I'm not saying the path will always be like easy peasy. There will be tough times and there will be good times. But overall, you can choose a path that really makes you happy. And that path doesn't depend on material riches, or going with people to get you some status or whatever. I mean, don't get me wrong. If riches are what you really want, then that is your path to happiness. But I'm saying that you don't need a lot of money to then buy stuff. You don't need to have $1 million to then buy a car and then be happy because you have that car. That's having it backwards, right? You want to find something that you're happy right now, and then walk on a path that makes you happy every day, right? And then become happy. And if you happen to make $1 million or more from your business, great, but it's not necessary for you. That's the book number 2. Book number 3 is, in a way, similar. They call it The Happiness Intuition. The Successful Bachelor's Guide to Life. And I've used the quote, if you have to think about it, you can't afford it, and the book Bachelor Pad Economics. So this book will reinforce the notion that instead of thinking about the items we cannot afford, let's think about the items that we can afford and live a happy life that way. So I'm just moving around the windows here a little bit I'm reading off some sentences from the screen. Okay, there we go. All right. So instead of, as I said, think about what you can afford, right? And live a happy life that way. So, three following chapters would be taking stock of what you have. What have you built yourself so far? And everybody has built himself something in his life, right? And if that is just living in a small apartment, that's something you build, right? If that is helping your company sell some products, that's something you at least contributed to. If that is some happiness with your, if you have like gotten a good relationship with your parents or with some friends, then it's something you built and worked on, right? So take stock of what you have, and then take stock of what you need. What are your dreams and visions? What do you still need to fulfill them? And then, very important, taking stock of your company, right? Who do you like to spend most time with? And through these three chapters, you would know what you've done, so where you are so far, where you want to go, and who should accompany you on the journey. Because Bachelor Pet Economics talks a lot about how we become happy by spending time with people and not buying stuff. I mean, yeah, it's fun to play computer games and so on, but even the best game console cannot replace human contact. And human contact comes with a beer or two or three. And it's infinitely cheaper and richer in experience than you could get from any electronic gadget. Book number 4 is called Almost There: How to Use the Force of Abundance. And the quote I fuse with the book is, the quote is, people think the glass is half empty when in reality it's 70% full. When in reality it's 70% full, from Gary Vaynerchuk. And then the book title is How to Argue and Win Every Time. The reason these two fit so well together is because the glass 70% full basically recognizes that we live in abundance, and that the best way to become happy is to recognize that there is abundance, that the glass is more than half full, right? And we have so many opportunities nowadays with social media and connecting to people worldwide. It's really, we live really in a plentiful situation. And how to argue and win every time is about how to convince other people, but not just convince them of your point, come to a solution that's a win-win for both sides, right? So if you know how to recognize abundance in your life, right, then you have what Gary Spence talks about, like a reservoir of positive emotions, of value. And from that reservoir, from your abundance, you can give to someone, right? From this 70% glass full, you can easily pour some drops into your friend's glass, and let him drink with you, right? So that's why I thought these two things go well together. And the book titles would be, the book chapters would be, A, how you can fill your abundance reservoir; 2, how you can give from your reservoir; and C, how you can give to receive by empowering your friends, right? So you give, like, you pour some of the water from your glass into your friend's glass. He will now be indebted to you and think about ways to give you back. And of course, you don't pour the glass of water with a single calculation, like, I give him that amount of water, he'll do that favor for me. No, you just give because you know that that your reservoir is always full, right? And then you just give, and that already brings you happiness, and then it also strengthens the connection to other people, and they will want to come back and give something back in return. And that's why the whole connection gets strengthened, right? And then book number 5, I call You Got the Flow: Swimming Lessons for the Gorilla Mind. So the original combination is Bruce Lee's Be Like Water and Mike Cernovich's Gorilla Mindset. And it fits perfectly. Because what Bruce Lee means with Be Like Water is, don't try to just jump head on through a wall. Just find a way like water to go around it. And use the environment, what you have in the environment, to your advantage. That is very much an abundance mindset. So the book would show you in the first chapter how to read your environment, how to read prosperous streams of engagement, right? How do you recognize when there's an obstacle or something you want to do? How do you recognize what is already in place and what can help you to get around the obstacle or towards your goal, right? And then chapter B is embrace the journey, let the streams carry you. It's actually that trust the process, lean back and know that you are basically sailing on a wave of abundance. And then the third chapter would be recognize the finish, get out of the water and back on track. You know that is you cannot let the environment keep you indefinitely with you. I think at one point you have to step out and get back to your own track. So don't get lost in the stream, right? Don't get lost in the environment and purely react to what is there. Just use it for your advantage, and then go on your way. And if you're in a mindset of abundance, those favorable streams are always there. Number 6, systematic interactions and eternal emergence of spirit. This comes from fusing this quote from Sidney Brenner: "A system can never be more than the sum of its parts in their interactions," with Gödel Escherbach. So when you look at a system as a society or as sort of assortment of items like that are bound by certain forces, like for example here, that could be my system, the coaster, and I just let it fall down, right? So obeys a physical law. That could be my system right now, the coaster, or the whole society, whatever it is. A system can only be made up of its parts, and then the sum of the interactions that these parts have with each other. The real question now is, can we ever understand the system? Can we ever hope to understand all the interactions and therefore understand the system? Could we rebuild the system on ourselves? And this is an interesting question, and I actually don't know. What Gödel found out in the mid-20th century was that, based on mathematical expressions, that a system cannot learn new rules about itself. So a machine can never understand who built the machine if the machine can only rely on itself to figure it out, right? So if you are if you live entirely in 3 dimensions, then you can never figure out the concept of time, really, because you kind of like you are bound by time. Time moves you. You're not standing outside. You can only understand something if you know, if you can look at it. And if you can't take a step back and look at it, then you can't understand it, right? So a system, you can never understand a system if you stay within its rules. So then all depends on how well we can step back from the environment we're in to understand it. So 3 chapters would be, and I think it's a very abstract concept that is best told in examples from our current life, right? So 1 chapter would be how to build life. Can we ever create life in a test tube, or is there a life force independent from us, right? So if we throw together a subset of genes that are the absolute necessity to let a bacterial cell survive, can we just find that one gene that we need to put in to kickstart life into the cell? Or will us adding genes, adding DNA, just simply not do the trick, because there's an invisible life force that somehow emerges and we have no chance figuring that out if you only look at genes? That would be the chapter number 1. Chapter number 2 I would call us, robots. Can computers take the reins away from us? Well, can artificial intelligence understand enough about itself to start creating itself in new ways? And would that mean that the system, could that happen? Because can robots actually understand themselves? Can artificial intelligence ever do that? Or would artificial intelligence just be an assortment of very elaborate routines that simulate a conscience? And that's important because if robots only are very sophisticated simulators of conscience, then there's a way for us to take control, however difficult. But if there's a conscience evolving from artificial intelligence, well, then we have to recognize that robots can be their complete own species, and that may not bode well for us. So it's important to understand the question. And number three is masters and slaves. Do societies evolve on their own? Do societies evolve on their own, or are they controlled from the outside? So, like, societies war with each other, make peace with each other, have certain developments, and stay constant in certain other areas. So, is that guided by outside forces? Is that guided by some cultural elite that puts out news over the internet and puts out has the monopoly over news, and then just like kind of by having their own message put out, control society? Or is society changing from within? That would be another chapter in that book. Number 7, fix your boat and brave the sea, sailing through life every day. So the original combination is, the quote is, it's easier to fix a boat than to calm the ocean, and then the slide edge. So basically, Justin Garcia from the Pressure Project has this favorite saying, it's easier to fix a boat than to calm the sea. And the slide edge talks about how to reach a goal. You change a little bit every day. You work on it a little bit every day. You read a book, 10 pages of a book each day. And then over time, you have like a huge encyclopedic knowledge. Or you work on your web page every day. And then over time, you really grow it. Or anything else. You work out every day, you do your push-ups every day 10 push-ups, and in 1 year you can do 200 push-ups in one go. So, however, it's important to be aware that we can only change ourselves so far. It's increasingly more difficult to try to change the environment. Or even some people say, let's fix reality, and I think that's just impossible. Yes, interactions from thousands, millions, billions of people, their actions constitute the environment in a way, but you as a single person cannot change the environment. You cannot expect that. You can only expect to change yourself, and then the environment, society develops wherever it wants to develop. Okay, so the chapters in that book would be A, building your crew one person at a time, who to talk to and who to ignore, right? So some people make the mistake, they try to convince others. And I know, because I'm one of those people who, at least in the past, gets very enthusiastic about something and then tries to convince everyone. And I just got to realize that some people just are not open to the message I put out. But then on the other hand, other people are very open to what I'm saying. So it's a smarter move for me to just focus on the people that I can reach, and not try to. If somebody says I don't think so, then nowadays I don't really try to convince the person. If some person really differs from my political opinions very, very strongly, I'm not trying to convince him otherwise, or her, because that's just futile. I just accept his opinion, and that's that. And I don't try to turn his opinion around or anything like that. No, I just try to recruit the people that are open to what I'm saying, and I'm not trying to convert the people that are not. There's so many people on this world. Why would I try to turn everyone in my favor? It's not. No. So just learn to recruit the friends that may already like you, and just forget about the ones that don't like you. B, second chapter, building your life one day at a time. Same here. Let the environment be. You can't change reality. Just focus on what you can do for yourself. build your life, work towards your passion, find your purpose, and spend nice time for you and with your friends, and then be happy. And don't try to change the environment. You can't. And C, building your vision one image at a time. So you build your life goals and find your purpose through consistent daily action. And that's also something that you do, that you learn more about yourself by doing that, right? You work on yourself. These would be my 3 chapters of that book. Book number 8, How to Forget the Past and Drive Ahead. Subtitle, How to Refuel Your Tank When You're Stranded in the Desert. So original combination is, the past is an illusion, the future is real. That was the quote. And then you have The Millionaire Fastlane as a book. So what this book will be about, realign your strength and move towards the future. Don't adhere to the past, no matter how dark and dry it may seem, because that will just keep you pounding sand. That's why I chose the desert in the subtitle. It's not too easy to simply forget the past, right? We often take comfort in reveling of days gone, and you better learn to not do that, because, like, imagine 5 years ago, oh, I could have done this, this, and that different, right? But, by thinking about that, where will you be in 5 years from now? You'll be thinking, oh, I wish I had done things different back then. Well, guess what? You could just look at the past, learn from the past, and do things different right now, right? It's tough to see how you have to wait 5 years for that to pay off, but really change your present now, because that will be the past, and you want to have a past that you can be proud of and say, I did everything that I wished I had done then. I learned from the mistakes I did 10 years ago, and 5 years ago, I really turned things around. That's what you want to tell yourself. And so that's what the book would be about. So the chapters would be A, how we got into the desert, how a past that leads us into the desert might not be as glorious as we thought. Yeah, think about that. Always is better. Hindsight is always 20/20. But was the past really that great when the next step was that you became unproductive, maybe? Not really. So maybe it's not worth really thinking about the past, because you tend to forget the bad things also. So, and then chapter B is how we travel through the desert. Look for the fastest way through and just drive. That's the most difficult thing. And JD Marco said in one video, that's where entrepreneurial dreams go to die. You're kind of you started your business, and you started your website, and you get a lot of positive reaction to that. You showed it to your friend, they said, "Oh, amazing," and yada yada yada. And then comes the time where you build your product, and it takes like 2-3 years. And I'm getting into that phase, and it's as in science. When I did science, you have an initial idea. The first experiments are great. You're highly encouraged, and then you do the experiments further, and you realize there's some flaws and some holes in your original concept. You have to go back to the drawing board and change it, and it's very lonely during that time. It's really a desert. So nobody. I mean, you don't go to conferences, scientific conferences, and talk about your progress, because there simply is no progress right now. And the progress that you talk about is so minuscule that, like, nobody will stop by your poster. And then 3 or 4 years later, when you got the paper out, then everyone's going, great stuff, well done. And then it was worth it. But there's always like a 2-3 year, if you tackle some problem in the long run, 2-3 years, man, it's just dry desert. And the way you go through it, at least I know from science, is just do the experiments every day. Keep your head down, do it again, do it again, do it again, work, just do more, keep working on thinking, and you'll arrive. And number C, the third chapter would be how we get back onto the fast lane, right? As soon as you see a road coming up, get back on there. So as soon as you see and if you have an idea that really brings you further ahead, jump on that idea. It may be a shortcut from your research that you did over the years, so maybe it takes you 2 years instead of 3 years, or 1 year instead of 2 years. Always see when there's a road that you can get further ahead, go on that road. Book number 9, The Positivity Anchor. Learning to listen and trust in an insecure world. So the original quote was, "And your gravity fails and negativity don't pull you through," by Bob Dylan. And the book is Momo. So Momo is all about listening, right? Listening to others and then, solve problems that way already by listening. So the story of the book is intently listen to what your gut, the environment, and other people tell you. As a result, you learn to let go and trust the process. Right? Chapter 1 would be trust your gut. Learn to listen to how your body expresses feelings and emotions. Chapter B, read the environment. Watch what your surroundings are telling you. Number C would be listen to others. What are they telling you beyond their words, right? 93% of communication is nonverbal. Listen to that. Listen with intent. That is what this book would teach you. And then number 10, to close it off, is The Greatest Story Ever Told. Atlas's Round Trip Through the United States. It combines The United States Are a Story by James Altucher and the book Atlas Shrugged. Interesting combination. I was wondering, is the US a purely capitalist country or are there socialist elements in here? Yeah, they are, but how deep do these roots go from a historical point of view? Right? I believe very much in history will tell you a lot how things came to be. So this will be a book that looks at the United States history and looks at different geographical and historical landmarks. Right? So we'll start with the founding father arriving at Plymouth Rock and then walk with them further west as the frontier expands. And then stop by some landmarks like the memorials for presidents in South Dakota. Forgot the name, but you know what I'm talking about. And how did the settlers survive economically? I mean, you took a trek over to the west. I mean, how did you survive that journey? I'm sure a lot of people died during those treks, but how do you survive that? And when do you decide here's a good place to settle, right? So, and then how did the concept of capitalism evolve to what we have today, right? And where do socialist influences come from? Did they come from within? Is there some silent Montezuma's revenge? Like maybe these native Indian folks were socialist in nature and then they somehow influenced politics by the settlers. Or whether that just came from collaborating with the US, with the USSR in the wake of Second World War. And with Vietnam War and everything, I mean, if you have capitalism, if there's socialist elements, they must come from somewhere, right? So I'd be curious to know where they really came from, and then learn more about that. So the 3 chapters would be the constants, chapter 1. What economic elements stayed the same from the beginning of the US to now? B, the variables, which concepts changed or evolved, and then C, the future. How will our future economic systems be, right? And that is book number 10. Thanks for bearing with me during this long time. I hope I could entertain you and inspire you. So let me know if you want me to write any of these books. I might just get onto it. Like it if you enjoyed the video, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again, having you again as guests tomorrow on my video. I seriously appreciate every one of you that's watching. I'm really happy. Leave me a comment. I answer every comment, either on my blog or on YouTube, or even on Facebook. I have my little spoof for this article on Facebook and on Twitter. Give me a comment. I'll respond. Because I want this program to be as valuable to all of us. And so then that means we can learn a lot about ourselves and maybe grow something organic, something nice, some new movement, some nice community together, right? In that sense, have a nice evening, see you tomorrow, and thanks for listening.